The stars never blinked, never changed, never cared. They only watched in cold silence as the small, unarmed ship broke through the violet edge of the Pearl Nebula, slipping into a space that had never known mercy. His name was Jalen Ro, lastborn. Of the drowned cities of old Earth, a man with no medals on his chest and no one waiting for his return. And that's exactly why they sent him, disposable, a peace offering to the Quarrix Dominion sent alone, without weapons, without answers, carrying only a whisper of Earth's apology for crimes it never committed. The diplomats knew he wouldn't come back. The generals hoped he wouldn't, but they all nodded and saluted as the hatch sealed him into exile. Now, surrounded by swirling blue gas and strange auroras that shimmered like spirits, watching from behind curtains of light, Jalen stood on the deck of the alien vessel. His breath fogged inside his suit, though the temperature hadn't dropped. It was the fear low and constant, like a sound just out of hearing. The Quarrix weren't known for hospitality. Cold-blooded, insectal, brilliant in war and deaf to peace. They had crushed entire worlds for lesser provocations than the one Earth had committed, stealing a sacred Quarrix beacon, mistaking it for a derelict satellite. It had taken a dozen translators and a death toll in the millions before Earth realized its mistake. And still, the Quarrix had not responded. Until now. Jalen was the response. He wasn't supposed to live. The air in the alien chamber felt too thick, like breathing through oil. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent mains, as if the ship itself were alive and watching. Ahead of him floated a being that could never be mistaken for humanoid. Its body, a shifting arrangement of metallic plates and soft, glowing membranes. Its voice, when it came, sounded like water moving over broken glass. "You are the human," it said. "Not a question. I am," Jalen answered, though the words felt like stone in his throat. He had no training for this. No armor, no backup. Just a message. "I'm sorry," he said. "I've come to give you this." He raised the small crystal disc encoded with Earth's plea for peace, for forgiveness. It pulsed faintly with blue light, a symbol of surrender and sorrow, but the being did not reach for it. It tilted its head, if that's what it was, then slowly, almost curiously, it drifted closer. "You are not afraid," it said. Jalen laughed softly without joy. "I am, very much. But I came anyway." The Quarrix being hovered in silence. Then, in a voice that carried something like surprise, or perhaps recognition, it said, "You may enter. The one who mourns waits for you." Jalen didn't understand, but his feet moved. A door opened in the wall ahead, revealing a long, winding corridor lined with glowing thorns and symbols that hurt to look at. He walked out and the door closed behind him. He didn't know what the one who mourns was. He didn't know if this was the beginning of a negotiation or his execution. But he had felt something in the alien's voice. A pause, a flicker of uncertainty, like the first wind that stirs ash before the fire comes back to life. And somewhere deep inside this impossible ship, something was waiting that would change everything if he could survive long enough to understand it. Jalen stepped forward, into a chamber that swallowed the sound of his own breath. The walls here weren't walls at all, but soft, living membranes that shifted like lungs drawing shallow air. Every step he took echoed back at him in strange, muffled tones, as if the ship whispered its memory of him in some alien dialect. Lights blinked from nowhere, gentle glows the color of bruises or moonlight on blood. He didn't know if they were watching or guiding, but he walked as if they were both. The disc still pulsed in his palm, like a heartbeat. Like it knew this was not over, not even close. At the end of the corridor stood something. Someone that made him stop. It was taller than he was, its body encased in what looked like ceramic armor that had cracked and healed 100 times. From its shoulders hung long strands of something like silk, though darker, shimmering with pinpricks of color that looked like dying stars. Its face, if it had one, was hidden behind a veil of shifting patterns, like rain falling upward. It did not speak, not at first. Instead, it held something in its long, jointed hands, a human child's toy. Jalen's mouth went dry. A small plush Sphera solar system replica, the kind given to kids on field trips. The earth bead was faded. One side torn open, burnt. "You brought this with you?" He asked more to himself than to the creature. "No," the being said, and its voice was not cruel. Not cold, it was broken. Like the sound of something ancient unraveling slowly. "You left it with us long ago?" Jalen's knees nearly gave out. His brain struggled to connect the pieces, but they felt too fast, too sharp. What do you mean?" The being lifted the toy gently, almost reverently. A human child was here. A long time ago, not his envoy. A stray. Jalen's chest ached as he stepped closer. You're saying a child survived the first encounter? He thought of the stories buried in Earth's classified archives. A survey ship lost decades ago, assumed destroyed by Quarrix forces. She did not survive, said the being, not for long, but long enough to change something. The light shifted around them. 100 glowing tendrils dropped slowly from the ceiling and walls like a forest of memory. Each one carried a small image, suspended like breath in glass. A girl's face, laughing, crying, drawing stars in the air with her fingers, singing. Jalen staggered back. You remember her? She taught us grief, the being said. She mourned her world, even as she lived. She sang to the dark. She cried for enemies she'd never known. She asked us why we were alone. Tears filled Jalen's eyes, sudden and furious. He hadn't come here for this. He was sent to die quietly, neatly, but instead, the silence of space had thrown open. A forgotten door, and behind it, the ghosts weren't only human. I don't understand, he whispered. You will, the being said. It lowered the toy into a small basin of glowing water. The room changed color. A sadness took form. We do not know if we hate you, it said, but we know we cannot forget her. She opened something, then she died. And we closed it again. But you came, alone, afraid, kind. Jalen swallowed hard. This wasn't peace, not yet. But it wasn't execution either. It was something stranger, like a wound that could still scar differently. If someone was brave enough to press their hand to it, he sat down, slowly, carefully. Then maybe, he said, I'm not here to make peace. The being tilted its veiled head. No, maybe I'm here to grieve with you. And for the first time since boarding the alien vessel, Jalen felt something shift, not just in the ship or in the air, in the being across from him. A breath, a weight moving off. A centuries-old chest, not forgiveness. Not yet, but a beginning. The days, if they could be called that, bled together in the ship's pale, pulsing light. Jalen had stopped counting hours. There was no sun, no moon, no clock to mark time. Only the presence of the being he had come to know as Therian, the mourner, and the slow unraveling of silence between them. They didn't always speak in words. Sometimes they shared memories through light, scent, or subtle pressure in the air, like tides shifting in a dream. It was strange at first, even frightening. But over time, Jalen came to understand that this was how Therian spoke truth through emotion, not logic. Through feeling, not strategy. In return, Jalen shared what he had. Stories. Not of war or peace. Treaties, but of Earth's oceans, of music that hummed from cracked radios on rainy nights, of cities that burned and healed again, of a world that never gave up even when it had every reason to. He spoke of his sister, gone young to disease, her voice still alive in the old recordings he kept stored in his neural archive. He played one of them once, just a few seconds, a laugh. Soft and real, Therian had gone still when it heard. Is that grief or joy? It asked. Both, Jalen answered. They live in the same place sometimes. He saw Therian wrestle with the idea. It twitched in subtle ways, like a shadow trying to remember how to move in sunlight. Jalen didn't press. He knew pain when he saw it, one evening, or whatever passed for evening in the ship's soft twilight. Therian guided Jalen into a chamber he hadn't seen before. A nursery, if the word could even apply. Dozens of pods, humming with low-frequency warmth, filled the curved room. Inside were small, curled Quarrix, young none of them aware of his presence. They are not taught hatred, Therian said. It's voice low, but they will learn it if nothing changes. Jalen nodded. That's how it starts, always. Not from children, but from what we pass down to them. Therian moved toward one of the pods, rested a long hand over the surface. We have known war for so long, we forgot the shape of mercy. You remembered it once, Jalen said. A human child showed you. Now I'm here. Maybe that wasn't an accident. Therian's gaze shimmered with new tension. You believe in purpose? No, Jalen said softly. But I believe in chances, second ones. And third, if we're lucky. I believe in standing where something broke and deciding not to walk away from it. The ship pulsed around them again, but the light was warmer now. Like a heart learning how to beat in time with another, Therian reached out, and for the first time touched Jalen's arm, not as an experiment, not as a gesture of dominance, but with a gentleness that caught him off guard. Your people burned our skies, Therian whispered. But you listen, and yours killed ours, Jalen. Sight steady. But you remember, they stayed like that a while, not moving. The air between them was heavy but clean, like rain washing away ash. For the first time in the history of both their peoples, a human and a Quarrix did not argue or threaten or plead. They simply mourned together, not as enemies, not even as allies, but as survivors of mistakes, of pain, of time. In that quiet room filled with sleeping children, something sacred passed between them. A bridge not built with treaties or signatures, but with pain offered and pain accepted. The human wasn't just alive. He was needed. Asterisk, it was on the 6th cycle if the strange, blinking rhythms of the ship could be counted as time. That Therian brought Yalan to the place no other human had ever seen. Deep beneath the living corridors, where the walls no longer pulsed with soft light but darkened like skin scarred by flame, there was a chamber without breath. The moment Yalan entered, he felt it like falling into memory that didn't belong. To him, the air grew heavy. His legs trembled, not from fear, but from a pressure older than words. The walls here didn't glow. They bled. You were never supposed to see this, Therian said. It did not use its voice, but sent the message straight into Jalen's mind. It was clearer than speech, weighted with sorrow that cracked like old glass. What is this place? Yalan asked. A wound, Therian answered. Ours, yours, the child's. The lights around them flickered and formed an image. Not a hologram, but a living memory shaped from bioorganic light. Yalan watched as the projection bloomed, showing the young human girl, her tiny frame barely clothed, blood on her chin, lying beneath a collapsed console. Quarrix shapes moved around her, unsure, curious. Not cruel, but uncaring. She had been alone, trapped on a derelict ship, not rescued, studied, until one of them, Therian, broke the order. Lifted her, fed her, spoke to her. She was the only one who smiled at us, Therian said, even as she died. Yalan closed his eyes, but the image pressed on. The girl Mariel, her name was Mariel, drew stars on the wall with her own blood, her fingers trembling. She told stories to the aliens in her soft, failing voice. She cried not for herself, but for the mother she would never see again. And when she died, she clutched a stuffed Earth replica to her chest, the very same toy Therian had shown him. We felt she was a threat, Therian said. We did not see what she was until it was too late. Jalen's heart cracked open. This was no accident. No simple misunderstanding. Earth hadn't lost her. The Quarrix had taken her. Not maliciously, but coldly, clinically curiosity mistaken for mercy. And by the time they felt something more, she was gone. You lied, Yalan said. His voice was low, hollow. You said she came by chance, that she wandered here. She did. After you fired upon us, Therian replied. After your governments broke the stars open and left her ship drifting in the silence. She came because of war, and died because we didn't know how to hold something soft. Yalan turned away, teeth clenched, hands shaking. This wasn't the clean wound he thought. It was. It was infected, buried, and denied by both sides. Earth had sent a broken message. Quarrix had returned silence. And in between, a child had suffered and vanished. Therian stepped closer. We did not tell you because we were ashamed. Not of her death, of how she changed us. We were not meant to be changed. Yalan looked up, eyes wet, jaw set. And now? Therian's voice was smaller than ever. Now we mourn her. We remember her, and we do not know what to do with that memory. Yalan stepped forward. You give it to me? The mourner froze. You give it to me, Yalan repeated. All of it, the memories, her last words, what she taught you. I'll take it. I'll carry her voice back home. Why? Therian asked. Why would you burden yourself with our failure? Yalan stared at the ghost of the little girl glowing in the chamber, because Earth already buried her once. I won't let her die a second time. The ship trembled. Or perhaps it was Therian. We feared this truth would end all hope, the alien whispered. But maybe it's the only way forward? Yalan nodded. Truth hurts, but lies kill slower. And as Therian extended a hand, one long finger pressed to Jalen's forehead, the chamber filled with a flood of memory not his own. He staggered, gasped, and fell to one knee. Mariel's voice was inside him now. Her songs, her stories. Her stars thought he was no longer a messenger. He was a vessel, and the truth inside him would either unite two species or burn the last bridge between them. The transfer changed him. Not visibly, Jalen's flesh remained untouched, his voice the same, his posture still that of a weary envoy sent to die. But within, the storm brewed. He now carried a memory not made for human minds, raw, alien, endless. He saw Mariel's final days as she had seen them, through eyes too young to comprehend death, through dreams still whole in a world that was not. He felt her loneliness, her gentle trust, and the soft, frightened hope that someone would come for her. That someone would make sense of the silence, but no one ever did. Until now, He began to speak to Therian differently after that. Less like a guest, more like a brother in shared pain. Mariel was no longer a story between them. She was the heartbeat beneath every word. The ship's walls pulsed differently too, as if it understood. The Quarrix weren't machines, but their vessels were symbiotic, organic, sentient. It knew. It remembered. It mourned. But outside this fragile cocoon of honesty, war boiled again. Jalen learned the truth from the ship's inner broadcasts. Quiet, encoded pulses meant for other Quarrix colonies. Earth's high command had grown impatient. They assumed the envoy was dead, as expected. They were preparing a final strike. Orbital payloads, cleansing fire. A way to close the chapter. He didn't scream. He just stared at the silent ceiling of his chamber, jaw clenched so tight it ached. They never meant peace, he whispered. Therian stood beside him, silent. Jalen turned to the being, voice trembling. How long do we have? 2 Earth days, then they will arrive. Emma stopped, Jalen paced. The memory of Mariel burned. In his mind, her voice echoing, soft and trusting. Will someone come for me? I need to contact them, he said. They'll listen if they hear me, but he didn't believe it. Not truly. No signal from this vessel will reach them, Therian replied. Your people know how to silence ears that don't speak. Violence. Jalen's heart pounded. Then I need a ship. I need to go back. Therian stepped forward, its movements hesitant. They will kill you, or worse, they will bury this again. I don't care, Jalen said. If I don't go, everything Mariel left behind, everything she taught you dies with us. I won't let her story end in the dark. Therian turned away. Its body stiffened, its bioluminescent fibers flickering erratically. We have a vessel. Fast. Small. You could reach orbit. Then let me fly it. A long silence stretched between them. The ship ground around them, as if reluctant to release him. Therian finally turned, its voice shaking. If you go, you will be alone again. I was always alone, Jalen said, but now I carry something worth dying for. And yet, as preparations began, a second betrayal struck. Therian intercepted a hidden signal, a rogue Quarrix faction. Not ready for peace, furious that their mourning leader had shared sacred memory with a human. They had launched a virus through the ship's neural systems, intending to crash the vessel with Jalen still inside. If Earth didn't end him, their own kind would. The walls shivered. Therian collapsed to one knee, shaking. They will destroy the memory. Erase her. Erase us. No, Jalen said, rushing to the control chamber. You have to hold on. You're stronger than this. I am not, Therian said, voice raw. I am only what you made me. I was never meant to feel this much. Jalen gripped the alien's shoulder, fierce and desperate, then hold on to her. Mariel didn't die for this. If I can carry her memory through pain, so can you. Something in Therian's core stabilized. A pulse of steady light returned. It reached out, hands trembling. We will open the path, but you must fly, now. And so Jalen boarded the small, trembling craft, a living pod with organic controls. A nervous heartbeat beneath its frame. It launched from the belly of the Quarrix vessel like a seed flung into the dark. No weapons, no escort. Just truth pulsing in his chest and the countdown to annihilation ticking in his ears behind him. Therian whispered into the void. Bring her home. Jalen gritted his teeth as stars blurred around him. I'll bring her story. And either Earth would listen, or they'd prove once and for all that humanity's greatest strength was also its greatest shame, its ability to forget. Asterisk, the stars blazed like wounds across the black as the Quarrix vessel shrank behind him. Jalen piloted the living pod through the gulfs of space, its interior throbbing in rhythm with his pulse, as if it sensed the weight of what he carried. Ahead loomed Earth's outer defense, grid silent, cold, unmoved. No alarms yet, but they would come. The ship was small, unarmed, but alien. It was only a matter of time. He opened every channel. His voice, raw and unvarnished, spilled into the vacuum on every frequency he could access. This is Jalen Ro, Earth Envoy. I'm alive. I'm coming in with a message. Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire. Static dot, then a hard, sharp reply. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. You are in violation of interstellar quarantine. Divert and prepare to be boarded. I'm carrying a memory transmission, Jalen replied. Of Mariel. Tess, the child who died during first contact. You buried her. I'm bringing her back. Silence again. Then that file is sealed. Classified. Jalen almost laughed. You classified a child's death like it was a weapon. She was more human than anyone sitting behind that command desk. A long pause followed. Then the voice returned. brittle and cool. Stand down. You are to be escorted to orbital detention for debrief. No, Yellen said quietly, leaning forward. You're going to listen. He activated the pod's transmission core, the interface designed by the Quarrix to send emotion as data. Memory as living light. He poured Mariel's story into the void, her voice, her drawings, her songs, her death. Her final words, trembling and small. I hope someone finds me someday. And Yellen let them feel it. He forced Earth to feel. On the command deck of Earth's defense station, generals staggered. Analysts wept without knowing why. For the first time in decades, classified lies cracked open like old bones, and the marrow was too bitter to swallow. The comm crackled. A new voice, older, tired. Yellen, we received the file. What is this? This, Yellen said, voice trembling, is what happens when we forget we're not the only ones who suffer. This is what you buried. A child who made enemies grieve. And you wanted me dead so you could keep pretending we were right. They told us she died in orbit, the voice murmured. She died begging someone to come. And the aliens you hate the most, they listened. They mourned her. Another voice cut in, harsher. The Quarrix have declared no official truce. They are an unstable threat. Your message is emotional distortion, not strategic intel. Earth has already authorized a retaliatory strike. No, Jalen's voice was steel now. You strike and it's over, for all of us. You think power is in bombs and silence. But real power, real strength, is standing in pain with your enemy and refusing to look away. The pod systems warned him interceptors incoming. Jalen closed his eyes, whispered to the pod, not knowing if it could hear. One more push. He accelerated toward Earth's atmosphere. No weapons, no shields, just speed and truth. He knew he'd be intercepted. He knew the risk. But maybe maybe the story would hit harder if it came wrapped in fire. Missiles launched. The ship rocked violently. Then everything stopped. A flash of light burst in the sky. The Quarrix vessel had followed. But it didn't fire. It didn't speak. It simply positioned itself between Earth and Jalen's pod. A shield, a witness. The interceptors paused. Systems across the orbit grid flickered with a flood of encrypted data. Mariel's final moments. Broadcasts from both sides now. One human. One alien. Bearing the same ghost. The silence that followed was not empty. It was choice. Finally, a single message from Earth Command, spoken by someone whose voice had cracked with age and shame. Jalen Ro. You may proceed. And the pod coasted forward, fire trailing behind, grief burning in its wake. Jalen sat back, eyes closed, heart heavy. He had not won. He had not saved, but he had spoken. And they had listened. Sometimes that was enough. Asterisk. The air on Earth felt thicker than he remembered. It pressed against Jalen's skin, like memory turned to gravity, heavy with everything he had carried from the stars. The recovery team met him in silence, not with guns, not with medals, but with eyes that did not know how to look at a man who returned from death with a ghost in his heart. They did not speak when he stepped out of the pod. They watched him like he was something ancient, something cracked open and still glowing inside. And in a way, he was. They escorted him to a debriefing compound far from the cities, where skies were open and the wind still remembered the taste of salt. He sat in a dim room across from men and women in suits and uniforms, people who wielded influence like a scalpel, who had long ago stopped believing in things like children's toys or alien tears, but they listened now, because Yellen didn't. Bring numbers or threat assessments. He brought the story of a little girl who sang to her enemies, who died believing someone would come. He brought the memory of a mourner who carried guilt, not as strategy but as sacrament. He showed them how empathy could live in the mind of something with chitin skin and eyes like burning moons. He spoke of grief not as weakness but as proof of life. Some dismissed him, called him manipulated, claimed the memories were fabricated. Propaganda, but others, quiet ones, believed. You could see it in how they leaned forward, how their lips parted but never spoke, how their hands trembled just slightly when the playback of Mariel's song filled the room. Days passed. Then weeks. Yellen remained on Earth, confined, studied, questioned, but he was no longer afraid. The pod had returned to the stars on its own. He didn't need to see Therian again to know their bond endured. One morning, he woke to a knock. A woman entered, civilian clothes, no rank. She held a small bag in her hands. Without a word, she placed it on the table and slid it across. He opened it slowly. Inside was the toy planet, a replica of the one Mariel had held when she died. But it was new, whole. The burn marks were gone. Someone had restored it. Not for display, for remembrance. She had no grave, the woman said. Now she will. Yalin stood, his throat thick. Where? In the memorial garden, she replied. Next to the first contact plaque. We're changing the inscription. He didn't speak. He say OULD and single quotes T. Later that day, beneath a sky untouched by orbital war, Yalin stood before a new stone. The engraving was simple, Muriel Tuss' human child, first ambassador. She taught us to grieve. She taught us to listen, and beneath it, the planetary toy spun slowly, powered by a tiny solar core. Earth glowed blue. He sat there for hours, no cameras, no speech. Just the wind. Somewhere out beyond the stars, Therian would feel it, and maybe. Others too. This wasn't the end of war, or fear, or mistakes. Humanity would still stumble. The Quarrix would still hesitate. But something had changed, something uncheckable. They had tried to bury a child's story beneath silence, but the human sent to die had carried it home. He had made them listen. Not with weapons, not with conquest, but with the terrible, undeniable power of grief shared. And that, more than strength, more than strategy, was what made humanity impossible to defeat.